What a peak episode, man. I just finished watching this week's episode of MHA. I'm not gonna lie, this might be my favorite episode of the series. If not, I mean, it's still debatable for me whether or not this one or episode. I mean, honestly, all the episodes were good in my personal opinion, but episode 3 though of this season was really good too. But this episode for me, I probably say just because it's a little bit more impactful. It's kind of like the finale of the series. Not in terms of like the final episode, but like the fighting and everything, and pretty much the last time you'll ever see Deku like in a battle, and like the entire class 1A and stuff and everybody. But like I said, overall this episode was phenomenal from start to finish. I was very excited for this episode because I coming from a manga reader, this is one of those episodes that I was hoping to see get animated. How they're gonna do it? Are they gonna do justice? Are they gonna fumble? They have not fumbled this season, not one bit. I personally enjoyed every episode leading up to this moment right here. I think the last time I talked about MHA was probably when Bakugo was fighting All for One. Oh no, One for All. But overall, though, I definitely enjoyed this episode. Like I said, I know leading up to this, a lot of people were a little bit disappointed that Shigaraki versus Deku. Because I mean, it was cool, obviously, seeing Carnage Deku and stuff like that for anime onlys. And I know for anime onlys, a lot of people were expecting like a grand finale, Shigaraki and Deku, like, huge fighting scene or whatever. But I know some people were a little bit disappointed because that didn't happen. But in the manga, it's kind of the same thing. It was a lot more heavy dialogue and stuff, showing Deku's battle IQ. But it was never really about a Deku, like, a grand finale battle, if that makes sense. It was always more about, like, Deku trying to save Shigaraki and stuff. But I do understand it's people's gripes of wanting a grand battle, you know what I'm saying? So, and I don't blame y'all, because at the end of the day, it is a shonen manga. But I mean, it is what it is. I still enjoyed it. And the scenes that you did get to see, Deku kind of go a lot against Shigaraki in terms of, like, cool animated scenes. You got to see that. Just obviously, I guess, just wasn't long enough as people would like to see it. And then to find out that, like, Shigaraki, his whole entire life has been a lie and has been orchestrated by, All for One and stuff like that, was, One for All. Very, very, like, sad and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things that, like, damn, like, I feel really bad for Shigaraki, because under different circumstances he probably would become a great hero and stuff, but his entire life has been a lie and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things, like, when you want to talk about a tragic character, his name definitely has to be bringed up. But in terms of, like, for an evil antagonist, All for One, definitely fucking evil, bro. Like I said, definitely evil. He's up there in terms of, like, one of the greatest villains of, like, the new generation, or if not just when you want to talk about anime and manga, because at the end of the day, he is the final villain. And in this episode leading up to that, Deku was trying to stop All for One and stuff like that. And like I said, bro, this episode to me just, like, just like all the emotions and everything going into this episode was there for me. Like I said, if you know Deku's character from the start, he was always about saving people regardless if he had a quirk or not. And then once he got the quirk from All Might, obviously he started living out his dream and stuff like that. But now, with the finale of the war and stuff, him trying to basically giving it up because he has no choice, obviously, because he could have killed him, but obviously that was never really Deku's always been trying to save people and stuff. And him giving out his power at the end of the day, to sacrifice, to save the entire world and stuff like that, really shows the type of person Deku is, and what it really means, like, to be a hero. Because, like, at the end of the day, to be a hero, it doesn't matter about, like, what other people think and stuff like that. It's like, what matters is, like, you trying to save someone, regardless if you have a quirk or not. And that's always been Deku, him having a quirk, which is like icing on cake and stuff like that. And I really feel bad for Deku, but at the same time, he, like, I don't know, out of all the MCs, like, that I've seen throughout my, like, life watching anime and reading manga, Deku is definitely one of my favorite MCs of all time, because, like, he motivates me. It sounds cringe, but, like, he wants me to become, like, a better person, like, become a hero. I know it sounds kind of cringe, but, like, it's just one of those things, like, anytime I see him on screen or him do something motivational, like, it makes me want to do it too. But yeah, like I said, definitely love Deku as a character, and this episode overall really just solidified it even more. One of my favorite episodes of all time, definitely, just because everything leading up to this moment, everybody cheering on for Deku. You see everybody in Class 1A show up, and you really do get to see some, like, cool original scenes in this episode of, like, the Class 1A, attacking All for One and stuff like that. You see Bakugo help out Todoroki, like, any hero and stuff like that. Kind of remind me of, like, the Avengers. Is really cool. One of my favorite scenes too in this episode is when you see All Might kind of talking to himself and saying, "You've always been my greatest hero ever since I saw you move on your own." And you get some really nice callbacks to season 1, and that final punch where, like, he lands on All for One, and so well done. And then you see, like, the vestige of Shigaraki, him saying, like, "Deku, I couldn't destroy anything, but thanks, you know what I'm saying, you saved me in a sense," but kind of not really, but you get what I'm trying to say. and then you see him kind of smile and stuff. And I've always liked Shigaraki, man. Like I said, it's sad to know what really happened to him and stuff like that, because everything that's been a lie up to this point. But he still, at the end of the day, even after him dying, was still a villain and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things, like, I really feel sad for him, but like I said, they nailed it in terms of like emotional for me and stuff like that. And then the blue sky, I know people used to joke around that, like, back in season 6, I want to say, but it looked really good though at the very end. Like I said, phenomenal episode. I definitely enjoyed it. One of my favorite episodes of the entire series. I will have to think about it and see which is my favorite episode overall, but for right now, it's definitely my favorite episode of the season, just because everything leading up to it, what it means like to become a hero, and Deku's journey, it's finally come to an end and stuff like that, even though it's short-lived if you really think about it. But yeah, like I said, just wanted to give my thoughts out there on this week's episode. It was phenomenal. Definitely an emotional one for me, seeing everybody pull up and watching Deku through the screen and stuff like that, and then Midoriya's mom just watching him become a hero. Because if you remember, I think it was like on episode, it was like a callback saying, can I become a hero too? And then you see him become a hero like in front of your eyes. Like, it's just one of those things, like, it's so crazy to think about, and it all happened like such a short amount of time if you really think about it. But yeah, with that being said though, I appreciate all the support. Just wanted to give my thoughts out there on this week's episode, because I'm a huge MHA fan, love MHA. It's really sad to say that when you have 3 more episodes left, but everything good comes to an end. But thank you, Hero Coach. Thank you to all the staff members who worked on this week's episode. I always gotta thank them, because if it wasn't for like the staff members and everybody, this shit would not be possible without them. Studio Bones, thank you for not fumbling this season. Thank you, because I've had my gripes with y'all, some seasons. But yeah, just wanted to give my thoughts out there. With that being said, greatly appreciate it. Show some love, and yeah.